Howdy, riders. Welcome back to another episode of Ride Between the Wines, virtual edition, or COVID edition. I don't know. Anyways, in this episode, I start off tasting and talking to Josh Phelps, winemaker in California of the Grounded Wine Company. Very, very cool. And then after that, I'm going to speak with another Josh, tale of two Joshes, which is Josh Willoughby, who is the owner of a brand new restaurant right here in Columbia, South Carolina, called Market on Main, which if you haven't tried it out, check it out. So if y'all ready, buckle up. Let's ride.
The world we live in is an amazing one, full of passion, wonderment, and of course, fine wine. This is the story of one man's journey to fully understand and appreciate that world. So kick the tires and light the fires. It's time to ride between the wines.
It's Burgundian in style. Just a whisper of cherry.
Very nice legs.
This is so perfectly balanced.
Such an old world style.
Is this laced with tobacco? A total fruit bomb.
I say, Sir Ponce! Sure, yeah.
Cool. But other than that, let's just kind of get started. Welcome back, everybody, to Ride Between the Wines. This is Josh Phelps. Very, very cool to have you out here, across virtually with me today. Of the Grounded Wine Company, which makes wines in California, Washington State, and Oregon, actually. But I would just like to start off and tell me who you are, how you got to be here, and maybe a little bit about the company, if you would.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me, obviously. And I realize this is kind of the new way that we're communicating, at least for the moment. Let me give you just a brief overview on myself and my past project and this project. But I grew up here in St. Helena, so I'm sitting right now in my office, which is about 2 blocks from where I grew up, about a block from where I went to grade school, and about 2 blocks from where I live now. So
Nice.
I just rode my bike here. It took about 30 seconds, which has been nice during this time to be able to kind of go back and forth from the office to the house. But yeah, so I grew up here, and my parents moved here. My dad moved here to be in the wine business. I'm 34, so 35 years ago. And my parents both grew up in California. My dad, they both went to Davis, actually.
Okay.
UC Davis here in Northern California, which is known as a wine school. And my dad went to school for viticulture and enology, and wound up going to France for graduate school at the University of Bordeaux. He had already met my mom by that time. She spent time with him in France. And he worked for some French chateaux, including Petrus in Bordeaux, which is how he met Christian. And that's kind of what brought my family here. So
Okay.
after spending some time in Bordeaux, my dad moved to Napa with my mom to become the winemaker, the founding winemaker at Dominus, which is a French-owned estate in Yountville, just about 15 miles south of here. So I grew up with, my dad making that wine for 12 years, and he made the red wines at Camus for a period of time, Inglenook, handful of high-end Cabernet Sauvignons, as well as these days, consulting and making wine for himself. And so I guess, I grew up in that context of being around a lot of Napa wine and French wine, kind of more on the higher end, but I learned winemaking kind of from an early age, and went away to college, and really always wanted to be in business for myself. And I think decided, during my college years that I was going to try to get into the wine business. And my initial, at the time, your early 20s, the idea of a really expensive Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa didn't grab me as something that I should be doing or necessarily wanted to do. And so I really got into the affordable side of the business right off the bat. that was weird. My internet just kind of glitched. And so got out of school and actually worked for Joel Gott right out of college. He was a mentor and a friend, which was a great experience.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
And kind of grasped, got to kind of learn he wasn't even that big at the time. He was probably about a tenth of what he is now. And so I got to kind of, learn that business a little bit, hand in hand with what I learned from my dad, and then went out and started Taken Wine Company. Launched it that summer after college. And we were focused on an affordable Napa wine called Taken, and then we had some other SKUs from other places in California. And so that was cool, and really got to spend 6 or so years building that company before I parted ways and sold my equity to Trincaro Family Estate, Better Home. Great learning process, super fun.
Yeah.
And then that kind of put me into the place I am now. I started Grounded Wine Company, which we're talking about today, about just almost 3 years ago. So we've had wines in market for 2 years, and this was kind of like my next progression. The idea with Grounded Wine Company was really to make a portfolio of wines that I felt were value driven, really over delivered for the price point, accessible to everybody, and there's like something for everybody, and pure balanced wines that I could believe in. So it's been a great little journey so far with Grounded, and we are almost national now. We're in about 40 states.
That's great.
And but we're still small. We're still like, all in, everything's under 30,000 cases annually. I mean, if you think about these, a lot of the lots are 1,000 cases, 1,500 cases. So that's kind of like a brief overview on me. And I went to school for business. I didn't go to school for winemaking. In retrospect, I guess I wish maybe I had, but that's neither here nor there. But I went to school not knowing that was going to be my career, but it just kind of happened. I think when you grow up here and you grow up in the business, it's kind of what we know, and there's a nice lifestyle to it. I love wine now. I didn't always love wine when I was a kid, but I've grown to love wine, and I think it all kind of plays in, and it's worked out so far.
Yeah, it seems to. That's great. Where lots of different things I want to ask you. One of them is where all the names come from. You have some very interesting names. Are you the one who comes up with them? Like, Space Age,
my team,
Public Radio, whatever.
My team and I, yeah. I have 2 people that work with me on kind of brand creation and day-to-day marketing. And naming wine is naming anything is tough. Naming like products is tough, And when we had Taken Wine Company, granted I was 23 years old when I started that company, but we named it Taken because all the names were taken. It feels pretty amateur now, but that's what that was. And honestly, it worked. It had its run, but Grounded, we wanted to do something a little, definitely more serious and something that had meaning. And so I think the idea, the overarching brand Grounded is the idea of being grounded in life, grounded in soil, grounded in wine country. I think that word makes sense for what we want to project and how I feel about winemaking and the wine business. And then the other names, so we have Grounded, and obviously, as we'll talk about, our 2 newest wines that we're kind of bringing to market right now are called Grounded. And they're kind of at the most affordable price point. And frankly, those wines are really what I'm excited about right now, because we're really proud of what we're delivering for that price point. But we've got 5 other SKUs, 5 other wines that all have different names. And the idea was that, that way they can kind of live in their own world a little bit, and they all tie together. They all the theme of the whole puzzle is kind of retro, like throwback West Coast Americana, like very like American made. So you have Space Age, which is the rosé. It was actually 2018. I'm like really not on top of my game today with what of like the few samples I have in my office. I'm cleaning my office right now, and I have kind of gutted like stuff, so I don't have much wine here right now. But that's Space Age, and the idea, kind of just a nod to that era. And there's a rocket ship on the front, and kind of has this fun retro Americana vibe and summer friendly. And we kind of just had fun with this one, to be honest. And then the other wine I'm tasting today is Collusion, which is our Columbia Valley, Eastern Washington Cabernet Sauvignon. And Collusion is kind of a nod to like pre-prohibition era, colluding to do something illegal. Funny how that seems kind of appropriate right now, because it feels
Prohibition
like
era.
Prohibition era right now. And I really like that wine. That's what we can talk about that. But it's really fun making wine up there. And then we have a wine that we're making down in Oregon, so down from Washington and Oregon, in Willamette Valley, called Landform. And that name is kind of from the property where we make the wine. There's this just cool landform of like Mount Hood, and it's just really special out there. So we kind of put that landform on the cork actually, and I named that wine after that landscape. And then I'm trying to think the others. Public Radio. Which is our other Central Coast wine. So the Space Age is from Central Coast. We have Public Radio, which actually is posted about on Instagram this morning. It's a Grenache, predominant Grenache blend, a little bit of Syrah from West Paso Robles. And that's kind of, the first form of communication tied to that Americana theme, but it also has my grandfather's amateur radio call sign on the front. So a little nod to him. And then finally, the Napa wine, Napa Cabernet we make, is called Steady State. And Steady State is, it's an engineering term actually, but when a system is in steady state, it's kind of like a nod to the past, but looking in a forward direction. It's kind of the way we interpret it. So kind of a nod to the past growing up in Napa, but moving it in my direction, carving my path. So Steady State kind of being our flagship in a sense, not our flagship. Grounded is really our flagship, but Steady State's kind of our little halo is such a marketing term, but our Napa Valley smaller offering that we only make a couple thousand cases of, just to have something special in portfolio. But it's a little higher price. It's $50 retail versus everything else is 15 or 20.
Yeah. So what is it like and how are you working in 3 different states that are so different climatically and everything?
That's a good question. Grab my water. That's a good question because I think it was a little bit like crazy and chaotic, like why we did that. And I got out of my last company and made some Napa Cab because it's like Napa Cab is what we know here, and made some Napa Cab that turned into Steady State. And my dad had been consulting for a company in Eastern Washington, like the Red Mountain region. And I was pretty impressed with what they were making up there cab wise. And I think that, things have changed a little bit, and Napa Cab prices are like down right now actually. But a few years ago, they were like at an all-time high, and it was really impossible to make anything of value in Napa. The cheapest wine I can make, even today, it's like prices are down. I could bottle you a $25 Napa Cab tomorrow, just because where the prices are right now. But you don't know where that's going to be next year, and you can't build a brand off, the spot market.
Right.
And so, what I was fascinated with up in the Red Mountain, Horse Heaven Hills, Columbia Valley region, is that you really can, make Cabernet Sauvignon from organically farmed vineyards, well-made wine. We're not cutting corners. It goes into barrels. It's properly made wine, and you can do that for much less expensive, because let's say 3 years ago the average ton of grapes in Napa was $7,500 for Cabernet Sauvignon. It was like $2,200 in Washington. So, you know, collusion is at a $20 retail right now. We're actually even adjusting that to make it a little more accessible. And so for me, you know, that drew me up there. And then once I kind of went down that path, you know, we said, okay, we're going to have Napa, we're going to have Washington, we're going to make these broad California wines. Then we went and made public radio and space age, both on the Central Coast. And then our latest endeavor was Oregon. And so we jumped into another state. And the reason for that is a lot of it's also like relationships and kind of being a part of these winemaking communities in these different regions. I mean, that's fun. And I have a good friend up in Oregon who has a property, and I actually make the wine at his property. And that's just, I mean, frankly, like, he's a good friend. I was fascinated with what he was doing up there. I was going up and visiting a bit, and, you know, kind of said, shit, like, I want to make wine up here. And I do really like Pinot Noir from Oregon, more so than a lot of Pinot Noir from California, for me. I mean, there's definitely great Pinot Noir from California. I'm not saying that we won't make Pinot Noir from California. But the Oregon Pinot has been a fun one to make for sure.
Yeah. And then I'm obviously not from a winemaker, but from an outsider looking in, it seems like Pinot from Oregon versus every other thing we've just been talking about seems like the worlds apart, you know, not a Bordeaux varietal, or even, you know, Grenache Syrah seems like it's still further apart than Pinot. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, Pinot and Cab are like definitely like opposites as far as winemaking. But that makes it fun. I mean, Pinot, the Oregon Pinot is probably my favorite wine to make, just because I get to operate out of a really small winery up there, and it's all organic fruit. We do like native yeast fermentation, all open top containers, and then it ages in neutral oak. So it's really a kind of I mean, all my wines are unmanipulated, but this just feels like a very soft touch as a winemaker. We're really doing nothing to the wine. It's not even seen oak. And so the result is this really fresh style wine. And yeah, no, it's definitely, you know, we obviously could have made Pinot on the Central Coast or Sonoma, and we still may, but it just kind of made sense. Sometimes you just kind of have to go with the way it kind of happens. And this friend in Oregon, I had the opportunity to buy fruit up there and utilize their facility. And it's been kind of a cool little project.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What's next cool little project wise for you? Do you have a grape you've been dying to work with, or a region or anything like that?
You know, we're really trying to like hone in right now and not do more projects. If I was going to make one more thing, it would probably be Chardonnay. From
Oregon,
maybe from the Central Coast.
Yeah.
But because I like Chardonnay, but I don't think we're going to do any. I mean, I'm kind of trying to hone in and really take some time. We've taken some time during this time to like really just kind of hone in and refine some things, and you'll see that with our next phase of wine, just some tweaks and some pricing tweaks and packaging tweaks and things just as we kind of refine what we're doing, which I'm excited about. So there's really not a conversation about adding anything at the moment. I do, you know, yes, there are things that I want to work with, and there are things, you know, that I do on the side for fun, I guess you could say. Like I made a couple single vineyard Anderson Valley Pinot Noirs.
Nice.
I made Old Vine Napa Valley Chenin Blanc, and that's all stuff that's pretty tiny quantity, like as in like 100 to 200 cases. And, you know, I'll figure out if I'm going to, I mean, at some point I have to sell it, I guess, but just, you know, that's, I'll kind of do that as a creative outlet, cause it's fun, and you know, maybe sell it like through some local restaurants or something like that. But, as far as like the big picture, I think it's really important to focus and, you know, make sure we're focusing on what we're doing now, and like, you know, do it to the best of our ability. Especially right now. I think right now is an important time to focus, just because it's everything's a little bit, you know, unknown in a weird way. I'm pretty confident that that our business, the rest, I mean, we rely so much on the restaurant business, and I think the restaurant business is a pretty resilient business and is going to come back strong. But it is definitely, as you know very well, it's a scary time for that industry.
It is. You know,
and our model is split between retail and restaurants. So we've definitely been, in the past, we've definitely been quite reliant on the restaurant world.
Do you guys have a tasting room there? Also,
we don't.
Okay.
No, if you're like, we don't do like tastings for consumers. If anyone in the trade, anyone in your world wants to come do tastings, we do tastings like in here. Well, you can't really see it, but I'm in
see your bike.
I'm in a large office space that we have different kind of different spaces that to conduct tastings for trade. Okay. So we'll do stuff here quite often, but we don't do anything consumer.
Yeah. I was more wondering if tasting rooms, which doesn't affect you, I was wondering if that's something that's getting a big hit out there too for wineries who are having to deal with that. But luckily that's not something you were.
For sure. Yeah. Luckily it's not part of my business model, but a lot of wineries it is. I mean, a lot of wineries, like the tasting room business is like crucial to their business. And it's weird how they kind of phase. The restaurants were allowed to start opening, but tasting rooms were not. But now tasting rooms are allowed to like start opening really slowly. I think that's going to be a fairly long-term hit, just because there's going to be a localized tourism, people coming up from the Bay Area going to tasting rooms, but I don't think we're going to have a ton of major travel coming into Napa Valley anytime soon.
Yeah.
People with private planes, but that's a very tiny percentage. So I think, that's going to the traditional tasting room model is not going to be up and running, I think, for a while, the way that it was. Hopefully in a year from now, we're having this conversation and things are getting really back to normal, but I think it could easily be a year before.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And so what is that? How are we adapting to that and virtual stuff? And I don't, like I said, I'm not like really an expert on that model because my model is not based on that, but
right.
But a lot of my friends are, and I do sympathize for that. And I think it's similar to the restaurant industry in the sense that it's a hospitality industry, and there's a lot of jobs surrounding that. It's an industry,
Yeah. Well, here's hoping. I agree with you. I don't want to take too much of your time. Maybe two more questions, then I'll let you go. I feel like I'm obligated to ask this question just because of who this is. But growing up exactly where you are right now, and going through all this stage of family winemakers, you a winemaker, how much has Napa changed? What are some of the big differences in that whole area that you've seen just in your lifetime?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot. I mean, it kind of, how it goes. Like, I don't know if you live like where you grew up, or where you've lived for a long time, but it's a lot of it you don't notice. You don't notice until you really think about it, because things evolve. But I mean, I'd say 25 years ago, when I was young, really young, even 15 years ago, but 25 years ago for sure. I mean, I have vague memories of things here, and I think St. Helena. So St. Helena is kind of the heart of Napa Valley. It's the middle of Napa Valley. I think it's kind of definitely the most charming town in Napa Valley. But I'm biased. But it's kind of old neighborhoods. It's really cool. And growing up, it was definitely like way funkier, and little mom and pop restaurants, and like normal, like practical stores on Main Street that you would have in any small town. And just like a lot funkier and a lot more like small town America, And now, there's a huge influx of money in St. Helena in particular. The real estate is insane. And that has definitely, Main Street's covered with art galleries and jewelry shops. And, I don't know, people complain about it. And at the end of the day, we have a lot of nice restaurants here. At the end of the day, tourism drives our business. And so I try not to, I think that there's things we could do better. Where St. Helena's, but overall, I think that, you change with the times, and our business is reliant on tourism, and it's still it's a little more built up in the sense that it's not really more built up, actually. It's just like swankier. But there's cool things about that. We have like a great culinary mecca here now. And a lot of cool young people doing interesting stuff, which is fun. And I think I think it's still a beautiful, like, preserved area that people from all over the world can enjoy. So while it's changed a lot, it hasn't changed that much at the same time. Like, it's the actual infrastructure of the town and the place hasn't changed. It's really, and I think that kind of goes for the whole Napa Valley. I think, there's been a buildup of like Disneyland. I mean, Napa Valley definitely kind of become a little Disneyland as far as the winery scene goes. But if people ask me, where should we go wine tasting in California? I mean, I still think Napa Valley is like the coolest place for tourism, as far as just the natural beauty, the energy, the wine, and the quality of wine, and our restaurant scene. There's nowhere else in California there's no other California or West or American wine country that really matches that. There's a lot of drastic change, but I kind of like to think that it's like tasteful change, and it really hasn't by no means has it ruined this place or anything like that.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah.
I'm looking out the window, like, at the same schools that I went to right now that have not changed. Like, the building's exactly the same as when I was a kid, 25 years ago. So.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a great answer to that. Thank you for that. I think we kind of went through the wines, and I got your history, man. I appreciate your time so much. This has been great. Any last second thing that you want people to know about the Grounded Wine Company that we've missed?
No, I think, we appreciate, all your support, and, we're all in it together, and, I feel like everything's kind of starting to improve. So tell our friends in the restaurant world, hang in there, and to everyone else, go support restaurants and buy your wine at restaurants when you go support restaurants. Saw a Facebook thread today about like corkage or something. I'm like, why are we even talking about corkage? Like, go to a restaurant, buy your wine.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, thanks.
Cheers.
All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I certainly thought he was an awesome guest, and please go out and try some of those wines. So for my Take 5 segment, which I brought back with local restaurateurs in Columbia, South Carolina, who are reopening now, I've got Josh Willougby. Josh, what's up?
What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
It's good. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too.
So Josh is the owner of Market on Main, which you can kind of see the logo behind his head, which is right here on Main Street. We're actually in the patio. If you haven't been out here yet, this is an extremely cool spot. You guys have really gone all over the place here. This is awesome, and we'll talk a little bit about it. You can see this huge TV in the background here, and you can see what is this woman back here? What is she doing?
She is painting a mural. So for the back of our big screen TV, we have a elevation that if you're driving on Main Street, you can actually turn your head and see. And right now it's just a metal panel basically,
Backing,
but
right.
she is going to be painting a beautiful magnolia flower that's going to really, bloom nicely, and I think it's going to look really great. I think people are going to really like it, and this weekend she's going to be painting pretty much all weekend long on it, so you can come by, have some drinks, have some dinner, watch her paint. I think it'll just be kind of a cool little community experience for everybody.
And who is the she?
This is Maria De Felice. So she is an artist that we found through One Columbia. It's like a nonprofit kind of arts and culture group in Columbia. So Lee Snellgrove with that organization linked us up with her, and we thought she had some really great other murals that she's done, and you can actually check her art out at Maria de Feliz Art, I believe, on Instagram.
Nice.
And I've been linking her in on our Instagram as well. So if you look at our photos and things, you'll be able to click on her and see some of her other work as well. So, but she's very impressive, and I think it's going to be a really, really cool mural.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
It's gonna finish up this already kind of amazing patio you guys put on out there. All right. Well, that was an introduction. That didn't count as a question. So on to the questions. Question number 1. We're going to go ahead and start off with booze clues. So in booze clues, I'm going to give you some clues.
Okay.
And I want you to give me the booze.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So set the scene. We're on this very patio.
Uh-huh.
It's a Saturday, no football games.
Okay.
You might be out here with the family. I don't know.
Right.
You are watching the big screen here. Again, no football games on. Actually, it happens to be the Lion King
Okay.
in the background playing.
Okay.
And your entrees have just arrived. You're having the Mom Burgers, so the
Yeah.
Market on Main Burgers.
Delicious.
What's the drink? What are we doing here?
I think if you're having a mom burger, I mean, my choice with a burger is always a beer.
Nice.
So I always go with burger, I do a beer. If I'm doing a fish or something, I'll do a wine, a steak, wine. But with a burger, a beer, and I'd probably do one of my favorites that we have on tap here is the Cuvée de Troll.
Okay.
It's a Belgian beer, and it's got like a little troll holding a Belgian flag on the top of the handle, so you know what it is, and it's delicious. It's like a very, very light but really perfect beer, really well balanced, and
That sounds great for right now, actually.
It's delicious for hot days. It's delicious. But we have our bar manager is really kind of a cocktail mixologist extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
So he does on his end a lot of different, blended cocktails. The Aperol Spritz is one of our top sellers. It's a delicious cocktail. We have a delicious blueberry mojito. Sometimes we do strawberry mojitos. But we do a lot of cocktails. People really like coming out here, and it's kind of got that resort type feeling where you're just kind of hanging out in a lounge chair type situation, having somebody serve you a nice cocktail. So the cocktails do really well. But to answer your question in a long roundabout way, with a burger, I would do a beer, and it would be the Cuvée de Troll. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So on the subject of the burger, in case you guys haven't tried the burger yet, what makes the Mom Burger different than what separates this burger?
Yeah, so the Mom Burger, probably the main thing about the Mom Burger is the fact that it's a grass-fed burger. So the patties, it's 2 5-ounce grass-fed patties from a farmer up in Saluda, North Carolina, which is like 2.5 hours away from here. And the meat is just delicious. It's not like most other beef. Most beef is corn-fed, and so you get a different flavor profile, a little bit of a different texture. 10-ounce burger is also a pretty big burger.
Yeah.
It's a beast. It's a really big burger. So most people end up sometimes taking some home as well. So you get some leftovers with it, but it's just if you're like really hungry, it's a delicious burger to have. And in this environment, in this setting, it really brings it all together and makes it really nice.
So grass-fed beef, Troll beer, and the Circle of Life on the TV.
That's
This
right.
is the perfect environment. Until you guys start doing. By the way, he doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to con him to at some point doing Rocky Horror Picture Show out
Yes.
there. It's going to be amazing. Can you picture it? It'll be awesome. So,
We
anyway.
are thinking about doing a midnight brunch at some point, and that could
Wow,
even be a
that's
good
fun.
idea to do a midnight brunch and do Rocky Horror. What is it? Rocky
Horror Picture
Show. Yeah.
Yeah, once you see this, you're never going to ask again. You're
yeah.
always going to know it. This is going to be amazing.
Well, it's different, and like I was telling you earlier, like that's kind of what we want to do. We want to do a lot of different events and stuff that you don't see around anywhere.
Yeah.
And try to drive different audiences. So like we can, if we play Lost in Translation, that's going to drive a different audience than if we play Lion King. And those types of things, or even bands. Bands have different followings, and so trying to get everybody in here for something that they like is kind of the goal.
Well, it's just such a great venue for so many things. Like it feels great out here.
Yeah, and when the weather's perfect, I mean, there's probably not a much better place to be around town.
Yeah.
Now, if the weather's not great, we do have some covered and indoor dining, which is good. But when the weather is perfect like this, the flowers blooming, everything, nice, it's definitely hard to beat the experience here. Yeah.
Much agreed. All right, question number 2. Hard-hitting question here. This category is called Lights, Camera, and Action.
Okay.
All right. You are in high school. You are Ferris Bueller, but in Colombia. You're taking one day off playing hooky. Tell me what you're going to do in this city to really enjoy yourself while playing hooky.
One day off hooky. Oh man. Well, probably one of the greatest things that Colombia has is our zoo. So I would definitely have to have a stop at the zoo because our zoo is really, really incredible. With that, the zoo's close to the river. I like to kayak. So kayaking is, good on the river. A lot of people do the inner tube on the river. The river is really, I like bodies of water and lakes and rivers and that kind of stuff. So probably something related to like nature, outdoors. The zoo's a great thing.
Lots of opportunities,
I'd probably, in the evening, I'd like to go like the Museum of Art. The Columbia Museum of Art is wonderful. If you haven't been there, you need to go there because it's really great. Right here on Main Street too. But there's a lot of really nice places around here. But if I only had a day, I'd probably do some sort of exercising activity like kayaking or water rafting or something like that. I'd do the zoo, and I'd probably do dinner here, and then I'd do the Columbia Museum of Art. Something like that would probably be a pretty cool day.
Day well spent.
Day well spent.
I like that.
That's right.
That's a good answer. All right, number 3, story time. I just want to hear a story from you. In your
Story, okay.
and in your time here so far, give me one of your funniest or favorite things that has happened either behind the scenes or with a guest.
Yeah. So it's been a long project. We started this thing. It's been back in probably 2016, 2017 when we bought this space. We bought this building. There was a building here. Then we had to go through all of the permitting and everything to demolish this building. And actually right over there on the wall that's actually the old building. So those bricks there those are like from an 1800s building that was dilapidated and falling down and nobody was using it and it was basically falling into disrepair. There was like a waterfall through the ceiling when we walked in there to buy it and all this stuff. And so I think just like really the story of it all kind of coming together. I can't really point to like one little specific anecdote, but like going through the whole journey of like having this building, then demolishing it, then, putting all these pieces together, like thinking of this gigantic screen and how that would be a cool idea for everybody, building, saving the bricks, using that, like repurposing stuff, having, behind me here, and I don't know if you can see, maybe I can turn, having like a full outdoor bar, the windows that open up so everybody can enjoy that. And then obviously just, the great experience of the buildings and everything. It really kind of elevates Columbia to like a new level, I feel like almost. It makes it look like prime time, and I think that's why people are really enjoying it and liking it. And then us bringing other elements like, having an artist do a mural and some of those types of things. I think it's really just the story of the place, right? It's hard. I can't think of one specific story off the top of my head right now that's like super funny or entertaining or anything. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I would just say the story of the place in general and how it's been a lot to kind of bring everything together. But I think now people are really starting to enjoy it, and even in the middle of a pandemic. Obviously, it's not necessarily ideal to be opening up a restaurant at this time,
right.
But I think with everything that we've put in place and having this great outdoor patio where you can still be far apart from everybody, like don't go up next to people, like just keep your distance, well spaced out. Just, if you come and you just keep your distance from everybody, you'll be fine. And, I think that think that we're on the right track here, and we just want to be able to bring people together. I mean, really is what we're trying to do, and obviously this is making it harder, but I think if you can come here with your friends and have a great meal, and we're going to do different events, movies, and the Belmont Stakes is on tomorrow. The horse race. So at 5:42 p.m. I believe on the screen here will be the Belmont Stakes, which is a huge horse race, and that'll really be like the first live event in like probably like 3 or 4 months. So we're going to start promoting that, and hopefully have a good bit of people out here tomorrow to kind of watch that. Maybe people might wear a fancy top hat or something. I don't know. Whatever.
Haven't had a chance to dress up in a while.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever people want to wear, nice sundresses, whatever. But yeah, so I think that's kind of it's a long-winded story, I guess, but it's one of hopefully of inspiration. That's what we want. We want something that's inspiring for people, and something that people can get back behind and be like, wow, like this is ours, like this is not like, this is for the whole community, and this is why we built it to provide kind of like a little level of happiness for people, and for people to really see like what Columbia's kind of become and those types of things. So
I think this place is going to do very well.
Thank you.
I like the concept. It is very different, but it's perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Question number 4. Unpopular opinion. So
yes.
This is what I do: is I put people on the spot and I ask them if they have an unpopular opinion. Most of my opinions are unpopular, whether it's I don't think you should ever drink champagne out of a flute. Have it out of a regular glass. If you watch the last episode, there's at least one other person who agrees with me.
Yeah.
Or the fact that I think Return of the Jedi is better than Empire Strikes Back. I don't care what anybody says. What you got?
Well, I'll give you a couple. So the first one is actually not mine, but it's a good one. It's really weird. It's what my cousin likes. My cousin likes putting ketchup on her rice. So I thought that would be an unpopular.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, she literally growing
like
up.
White rice.
She lives on our farm, our family's farm, and when we would go down there, she would literally be putting like Heinz ketchup on her white rice. So she might hate me for saying that, but that's an unpopular, interesting thing. The other thing I would say would be for me. I mean, I'm a Clemson person. I went to Clemson, so. Being in Columbia, and
opening a restaurant literally 2 minutes from USC.
Exactly, and like most of our staff either goes to USC or went to USC or has some connection with USC, and my parents went to USC, so that's kind of unpopular for me to have be a Clemson fan.
Yeah, that's a great one
in this town, but it is what it is. So, and it's going to be hard too, because I imagine in football season, there's going to be Clemson games on, there's going to be Carolina games on at the same time, and we'll probably end up playing the Carolina games here, and I'll be like, oh God, but we got to do what the people want. So, but
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Well, question 5 is always, I call it stick the landing, which is to tell me what's so special about Market on Main. But I got to be honest, I think we really got into that a lot.
We did.
Did we miss anything that is super special about Market on Main?
I don't think so. I mean, again, like just to kind of tie it all together, I mean, it's really just a nice, outdoor experience is really kind of the main thing. But we've got, a great cocktail program. We've got great food. We're trying to bring in really good wines. We've got beautiful flowers, we've got art, we've got music, we've got culture, we've kind of got like a little bit of everything, and yeah, I mean, I think it's just a well balanced theme. We've got an inside deli with all kinds of cheeses, tons of cheeses that we offer. Our chef is fantastic, does a really good job with everything that he makes.
Who's your chef?
Chef Howard Stevens, yeah.
Howard Stevens.
Yep. Yeah, and actually I was thinking about the chicken wings are actually really good too. The chicken wings he does a Vietnamese chicken wings, which
nice.
are like super delicious with some blue cheese dressing on them. That are really, really good. But yeah, it's all good. I mean, it's all coming together, and we're excited about it. And you know, we think it's got a lot of really, really cool elements to it, and hopefully, you know, everybody's able to come and enjoy it and check it out and come back a lot and come to the performances and just come and hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. And whenever Soda City Market comes back up, my goodness.
Next Saturday, apparently.
Next Saturday.
Next
Wow.
Saturday, it's opening back up.
Which is this coming Saturday by the time you all watch this.
Correct. So June 27th, I believe, is what the date is. But that'll drive a big crowd here. I mean, when we were before the pandemic, Saturday brunch was like our busiest meal part because of Soda City.
Yeah.
So everybody would go to Soda City and then they'd be like, oh, I want to eat brunch, and then they'd come here. So, you know, we're looking forward to reviving that and having a lot of people come down for Soda City, and then, you know, come and hang out and check out this as well. So,
Well, man, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
This
Mike.
is awesome. Everybody check this place out. It's marked on Main. What's the address here?
it is 1320 Main Street.
1320 Main Street. Or just drive from the State House down Main Street.
Gigantic
till you see a
TV.
big old TV and a patio and you found it. But all right, man.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
thanks, Mike.
I
Appreciate it, man.
And there you have it. Another one down. Thanks so much for both Joshes for being on my show today. Thank you so much for watching the show. Please, if you're enjoying it or if you're listening to it, if you're enjoying it, please tell a friend. Please subscribe, share, all that great stuff. And see you next week. We're drinking Michele Chiarlo's wine. So until then, chin chin.
Cheers!